Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Double Digit Podcast. I am your host, Humzah Ahmed, and we are joined here by a guest by the name of Talal Khan.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Talal Khan in the cut from Chicago, representing the 630. What's good, guys?
Yeah, is that how the Chicago's people feel? What are they called, Chicagoans?
Say that one more time.
Like, so we're in Toronto, we're called Torontonians. In Chicago, what are you guys called?
I mean, there's multiple ways to go about it, right? So
Yeah.
the typical, most socially accepted way is say that you're a Chicagoan. But if you really want to go, further into it, more in the slang term, you could be like, yo, I'm from Chirac, because Chicago does actually have a legitimate war zone with all the gang violence going on. So, talking more to the urban folks out there, I'd be like, yo, I'm from Chi City, Chirac, That's the way I go about it, but since we're talking to a podcast, I'll let it from a different place. Chicagoan is a term that I'm going to go with.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if it was slang for you, what would it
Chi
be?
City.
Chi City.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. You're obviously not from here. You want to tell us more
I
about
mean, what do you
Chicago?
want to know? I'll give you a basic rundown. I'm 22 years old.
Oh.
I'm studying finance at a small private college in the suburbs of Chicago called Elmhurst College, and I'm studying finance over there. I have about a year and a half left. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I love business. I think business.
Okay.
I understand life under the guise of business. That's the best way I can go about it.
Well, that's pretty cool. Is there like any particular business you want to get into?
There's a lot, actually. When it comes to the service industry, the product industry, I have so many different ideas that I want to go into. It's just that I haven't gotten into I'm gonna cut off mid-story. 2 years ago, I started a fitness clothing line with my friend. It's called Muscle. It was called Muscle Bandit. It's not currently.
Muscle Bandit. Okay.
Yeah, it was a fitness clothing line that it actually was taking off. It's just that I had some personal issues that came up in my life that I stepped out, and because of that, the operation did not go as far as we would like to. But I like to gear my ideas towards the things I like. And here's the things I like is solving problems, because just like myself and everybody else that's listening to this, we all got issues in our life. So
Yeah.
solution development is I guess a very generic way to answer it, but that's the best way I can answer your question is what kind of business. It's solution development.
Well, now I'm intrigued to understand more about this Muscle Bandit. Like, how did it start off?
So one of my good friends, he's still one of my good friends, hopefully at least. I think he's my good friend. But he was just talking to me. He's like, Talal, I'm out here, I want to do something. He's really big into fitness. He's jacked. He was some scrawny kid before, and then he literally gained 50 pounds of muscle. He's like very, mashallah, he's athletic.
Wow,
he's on point.
alhamdulillah.
So I was like, dude, why don't you do something with it? What do you want to start? Do you want to start like a channel? Do you want to start like a blog? Do you want to start like a product company, whatever, service company? And he's just like, oh, I kind of want to go into the clothing line. So I was like, cool. So we literally were just like in the car, just talking. We're like, came up with the name. We're just throwing a bunch of names. And somehow, I don't know who came up with it. It was me or him. I'll just say we came up with it, Muscle Bandit. And we're like, dude, that clicks. That sounds
pretty catchy.
good. It's catchy. So then, and then basically from there, one of our friends, his sister's she knows how to draw. So we just gave her the name, the idea of what we're trying to do. We got a logo. Then from there, it was just we got with the accountant, got our tax ID made. We became a corporation. Then we made our handles on Instagram, social media, built a website. Then we got with the graphic designer, got wholesalers and all that type. It was a lengthy process, but I wish I was wearing some of it right now, because I wear it all the time. And so even though it's still not a business now, I wear the clothing all the time, and I always have people coming up to me asking me, where did you get that from? Where can I get it from? And I'm like, yo, sorry, it's limited edition, homie. Now it is. I wish I could sell it, but now I can't anymore. But inshallah, there's future ventures to go with.
Wow, alhamdulillah, that it went far out. It was
It did.
executed. You executed very well.
Here's the thing. This was the first time I went on a project like this, and because I'm not a big fitness guy. I'm not even athletic, okay? I don't know a lot about this stuff. So that's why I was like, all right, I was kind of hesitant, but I did learn a lot. After going through this experience, I learned a lot about fitness, which is cool. But I just learned a lot about infrastructure that I can apply to any business and any project and anything that I'm going to do in my life. Because everything that you do in life needs an infrastructure for it.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Whether it be spiritual, mental, or physical, whether it be based off what you're trying to do in your career, you need to have an infrastructure for it. And you get that infrastructure by putting yourself in situations and gaining experience and facilitating that experience and applying that and compartmentalizing it and applying it into all facets of your life. So that's why that was a very loaded comment. I'm sorry. But
That's okay.
yeah.
Any information is good. Is this Muscle Bandit still going on?
It's not anymore. I mentioned it earlier. It stopped actually last year. We were in business for about a year.
Yeah.
About 7 months into operation, I stepped out. Then it lasted another 4 or 5 months, and then it just did not go the way it was. Like
Mhm.
things just came up, complications. That's
Yeah.
the best way to put it. But yeah, like that's basically what the story of Muscle Bandit. But
Well, how did you feel about that? It must have been some heartbreak.
you know, here's the thing. I'll get a little bit personal on the mic since I don't know who's going to be listening, and I don't care. But
Alright.
the reason why I resigned from being involved in the company is actually about almost 3 years ago. It's 2.5 years. I was diagnosed with cancer. Okay.
Oh, inshallah, you'll get better.
So, you know, inshallah, of course, it's a work in progress. And basically, I started this project while still going through my diagnosis. And, you know, it's something that helped me, you know, put, you know, some sort of focus onto what I'm trying to do. That's not like always just like disease oriented. Because I'm always talking to doctors. I'm always just dealing with my symptoms. And it's just something that I was just like, you know what? I need to push myself. So when I came to the point where things were just getting more intense for me, that's when I decided it's not right for me to be involved in a business when I'm not going to be able to deliver my end of the deal. So there was heartbreak when I did resign. The heartbreak didn't come from the company collapsing. It was more
Yeah.
so like me resigning was the heartbreak that I had, because I was like, man, I don't want to be inadequate in an operation. But at the same time, you do have to recognize your limits. And but I did take that heartbreak as a catalyst to getting to where I am now,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, and spiritually.
I'm sorry to hear this, but if I may, what cancer were you diagnosed with?
So I was diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer
Oh.
in May of 2015. So alhamdulillah, and I'm going to say alhamdulillah, and I'm not saying that just so I can sound positive. It's because, truth be told, this is the greatest blessing that I've had in my life, is getting sick. Truth be, like, honestly. And that's not me being just trying to say it for glamour, like compliments. It's just the truth.
Some would digress if they get sick. I mean, you look so happy. Yeah, like, out of anyone I've seen that's been sick, or let's say anyone that's been well per se, no one's been more happier with cancer than you. Which, like, what's the secret?
What's the secret? Okay, well, what happened to me was, in my process of finding out, I found out actually, like, at the best time, actually, quote unquote best time, air quotes, guys. I know you can't see me, but
it happened.
yeah. But basically, it was actually my last week of finals for my spring semester of college for
Yeah.
sophomore year. And that's when I found out. And basically, that day that I was officially diagnosed, my mom came up to me, and she just comes up to me, and my sister had told her what happened, because I didn't have the heart to share it with my parents. They were both at work, and I'm like, I don't know how to say it. Like, how am I going to tell my parents I have a tumor? How am I going to tell them this stuff? So I had my sister take care of it for me. She, you know, my siblings are in the medical field, so I
Yeah.
felt that they would be better off in delivering this information in a more accurate manner and a more comforting manner. But when my mom came up to me, she just, in Urdu, she's like, Talal, tum theek to ho gaya na? And to translate that, it's, are you going to be okay? And
Oh yeah, I mean, keep going.
my bad, I'm sorry.
It's okay,
And
keep
I
going.
was just like, I didn't know how to answer that question. And it was I had no control over this. But when she said that, all the emotions that I had just turned off. My happiness, sadness, joy, anxiety, fear, whatever it may be, it turned off. So once that turned off, I had a baseline. And basically that baseline taught me to understand that I have a choice in going about this situation. I could decide to be a beta about it and let the situation define myself, or I can choose to be an alpha about it and define my situation. And that's why, like, it was a switch that turned off. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy that it did. It was a very difficult transition, but I just realized, like, I could capitalize on a lot. And I've been capitalizing a lot, you know, like, alhamdulillah, I have great relationships. I have great connections. I've progressed myself in a lot of great ways mentally, where I don't see the need to be sad. Do I get sad at times? Yes. That's a very natural thing to do,
Right.
to have. But I see the secret is like just keeping it real with yourself. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's a mainstream. It's mainstream. Everybody's talking about keeping it real. You listen to music nowadays. All the artists are talking about, oh yeah, you didn't keep it. I keep it real all times. I keep it 100. I keep it. I keep it 25
Right.
times 4, 8 more than 92. It's all about keeping it real. Why? It's such a mainstream thing nowadays, right? And it's
Yeah.
because that is the secret. Once you start keeping it real with yourself, you understand that there's a lot more in control that you do have.
Wow, that was very well said. Well, so what would you say to someone that, let's say, is complaining about their predicament or their sickness?
Well, to make it more relatable, predicament is what I'm going to answer. Because, being sick, I'm going to be honest with you, the people that are sick, okay, like, let me track back. So ask your question one more time so I can answer it the best way I can.
Okay, I'll make it more simple. So what would you say to someone that is complaining about their
Their
situation?
situation?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
pretty
I
good.
got you. All right, I'm going to be upfront and blunt. You
Go
got to
ahead.
look at yourself in the mirror and you got to ask yourself what your problem is. And you got to ask yourself, A, can I do something about it? Or can I not do something about it? And if
Okay.
you can't do something about it, cross it out. You need to cross it out. And for the people, like, alhamdulillah, we have spirituality, we have Islam, we have
Alhamdulillah,
Allah,
yeah.
we have a connection there.
Right.
And when you don't have something in your control, the best thing you do have on your side is that you know that Allah does have full control over it. And you being a mu'min, you being a believer, you have to have one quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we must have of Him is husnul dhan billah, is having positive opinion of your Lord. And when you have positive opinion of your Lord, Allah will maintain that positivity in those expectations. And that being said, if there's something in your life that you don't have control over, you yield it over to Allah and you hands off, you're like, I'm good. Allah will figure it out. And if you can do something about it, you need to be real with yourself and understand why haven't you done something about it.
That's
All right.
true.
And once you address that part of yourself, look, there's all sorts of vernacular that I can use. But to keep it appropriate, there's a side of you that is weak. There's a part of you that is weak that
Right.
every one of us has. I have it in myself. But what I've noticed nowadays, and I noticed this with myself, is that I let that part of me be the driver. I let him drive and take the exits and turns, and I let him take the stops, and I was in the back seat. And I decided, once I realized that this was the problem, I decided I'm going to take him out and put him in the back seat. And he's going to try to get in the front seat over and over. And you have to be consistent in addressing that part of yourself. And you have to be consistent in innovation. You have to be consistent in development. Every hour, I always look back and reflect on how can I improve. We don't reflect enough anymore, man. That's the problem.
Unfortunately.
We're so caught up in the day-to-day. We're so caught up in going to school. We're so caught up in hanging out with friends. We're so caught up in looking cool. We're so caught up in all this stuff that we lose the reflection. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there was a balance to his life. He reflected in the cave, but he also dealt with the people. And there's a consistency in that. He would pray at night and he would go out in the day and deal with the people. So there is that balance that we've lost. That's why people that complain about their problems, I'll tell them, I'm not going to give you a solution. You have to go there, excuse me, you have to go there and sit there and think and talk to yourself as to what is actually going on.
Right.
So I hope that answered your question.
I got more than I bargained for. Thank you.
No problem, man. I try to deliver.
You mentioned about the, having balance in your life,
Yeah.
right? What would you? How would you give? Sorry.
Yeah, you're
What
fine.
advice would you give to, let's say, someone that's in university? How did you cope with this immense stress and workload that everyone's afraid of?
I mean, part of that is like, you have to. I was just talking about this with somebody earlier, and it's
Okay.
somebody who's going to med school, and they're talking about the overwhelming. Yeah, I got boards coming up, all this stuff, and I'm like, all right, cool. The best way is that you have to understand. Like, a lot of people, like, it's mainstream nowadays to be like, oh yeah, you gotta appreciate the process. You have to trust the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with just keeping it as that. Part of appreciating, so there's multiple steps, okay? First, you have to recognize the process,
Yes.
all right? Most of us recognize the process that we're going through, okay? The second thing is you have to recognize you have to understand the process. Then the third step is what? You have to appreciate and trust the process. But there's more to it than that though. The most important thing is you have to be loyal to the process. And I'll use an example, many examples. You look at fitness, you look at marriage, you look at school, you look at whatever you're going to do. You're not going to always be happy about it. You're not going to be happy about, there's going to be times where you're going to, like, I hate to say it, but you're going to almost say, like, you're going to hate your spouse. You're going to hate your job. You're going to hate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, you have to reflect back to step one, the recognition of that process. Then you have to go back to step two, understand the process. Then step three, appreciate the process. But when you start to hate it, you have to go to step four and stay loyal to that process. And then how do you stay loyal to it now? All right, practically speaking, okay?
Right.
You have to do what? You have to recognize that there are ways to enjoy the grind. There are ways to break it down where you can find fulfillment in what you're doing.
So isn't it it's not just a linear process, right?
Yeah, you have to immerse yourself in it. It's a path. Like when you look at it, when you immerse yourself in something, you basically baseline it. That is part of who you are. So if you're trying to do something with your life, that is part of who you are. So you're not going to compromise that for anything, are you?
Well, inshallah, no.
No, right? I hope not. You seem like a good guy. So what I'm going to say is there's things like if you're like to address like university, right? If you're going to college, you're taking 16 I don't know how Canadian college system works. I'm from the US. So an average like a full-time student will have 16 hours of class time a week. At least to be considered a quote unquote full time, but there are people who have that's equivalent to like 4 or 5 classes.
Right.
All right. So in this process, you got to understand, you got to be a practical thinker. All right. Part of being a practical thinker is you got to understand your limits. Being young, we think that we can do so much more than we actually can, and that is the biggest downfall. That's what burns us out. That's what gets us to a point where 1 month, 1 week, even one few months, you're doing something day in and day out, and then once you just crash, you burn. And you have to understand that long-term, if you think about long-term, there has to be a balanced approach. And that balance is, if you're going to be going to school, have a balance of a social life, have a balance with your spiritual life, have a balance, taking care of your health, taking care of yourself. And this is what's going to get you through it. Otherwise, you're just going to get caught up in the process and you're going to get burned out. You're going to get scared. You're going to get anxiety. You're going to get depressed. And the next thing you know, you're going to give up.
That's what we're all trying to avoid, right?
Yeah, we're trying to avoid it. I feel like we're not doing the right things. We're addressing the symptoms. We're not addressing the source to avoid these. That's why a lot of people do give up.
Interesting. Have you ever thought of speaking to, let's say, people in public school or high school? You seem very motivational. As a kid, when I was like 12, 13, I had this thing where it's like, I do, alhamdulillah, I noticed that I'm not the most talented individual. Like I said earlier, I'm not into sports. I'm not physically on point. So I wasn't really good at basketball, all these things that I hate it too, don't worry.
Yeah. So one thing that I do see myself being good at is talking, being articulate. Alhamdulillah, I'm not perfect at it, but I do see myself being well at it. And when I was a kid, I was like, you know what? I do want to be a life coach and a motivational speaker.
Oh, wow.
So to answer your question, yes. Whether it be, I want to go on a global platform, inshallah. That's my long-term goal. And to answer your question, I guess you might be thinking, why haven't I done it yet? And it's obvious because I'm going through what I'm going through. But interesting to say, I considered that my diagnosis was an answer to my dua that I asked Allah, can I make me somebody who can be a public figure like this? Someone that people can be inspired and benefit from, for the sake of Allah, the Ummah Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and all humanity, of course.
Inshallah, this podcast will reach out more.
Yeah, inshallah. Even if it doesn't, this is my first time doing one, so I'm like, I want to come down and experience this. I want to, would you mind if I Snapchatted this just because
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm
gonna Instagram this one. I'm gonna talk to my followers.
Oh.
Yo, I want you to talk too, okay? I want you to introduce yourself and just be like, yo, this is what's going on. This is a quick 10-second one,
10
alright?
second? Okay.
Is that cool?
Want me to come on there or?
No, just I'm gonna flip it over.
Oh,
It's
okay.
all good. Don't worry about it. Yo, what's good, everybody? I'm over here doing this podcast. My boy,
It's Humzah Ahmed here.
A, over here with Gibraltar Leadership Academy. And we got our young blood over here, too. Unique experience, and I'm glad I'm doing it. Much fun. Oh, no. Oh, there you go. All right, we good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
It's no problem. Due to time constraint, we're sorry about that.
Hey, don't worry
like
about
one
it.
more question. Because of the Muscle Bandit that ended,
Yeah.
what do you believe your future to be?
As far as business, is that what you're asking?
Anything.
Anything? Well, I'm finishing my school. I have a year and a half getting my degree, right?
Yeah.
But I'm currently in the works of I'm trying to set up at least 3 to 4 businesses. So that way, once I do graduate, instead of having to go for a corporate job, I'll be managing my own portfolio of businesses. And because of that, because of the time constraint that we have, can't really go into it, but some of those things are inclusive of what, like the speaking platform that I want to go on. Some of it is in the fashion line, because Muscle Bandit inspired me into going into fashion, because I've always been into aesthetic, into detail, and going into Muscle Bandit and production taught me the infrastructure and the ability, gave me the ability to start my own brand in anything that I'm trying to do. So fashion is one of the things I'm trying to do. When it comes to building products, helping out the Muslim community, I consider myself, I don't want to be doing one thing. I'm trying to do 10 different projects at the same time, because that's how I run. Life is not linear for me. That's actually the last point I'm going to end you off on, okay?
All right.
Don't consider life to be linear. It's not one thing or the other. It's both of those things taking place at the same time. It's not just both. Everything is taking place at the same time. So you have to understand that the perspective that you have now is not going to be the same as it's going to be in 30 seconds, and in a minute, and an hour, in a year, and 10 years.
That is true.
All right?
Very true.
Because your family life, your family life, your personal life, your career life, all these things are being affected simultaneously. And you're basically like a mad scientist, kind of gauging things, making sure you're adding this, taking that out. And don't think your life is linear, man. Don't ever take it that way. Otherwise, you're going to progress very slow. Very, very slow. So
the sky's the limit.
What's up? The sky's the limit, man. I'm telling you, there's multiple universes out there. You know the multiverse theory?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Marvel and
I mean,
that
whether or
stuff.
not that's true or not, what I'm trying to tell you is that the limit is placed in your mind. Because Allah has placed no limits on you, man. You have to understand, build ta'alluq with Allah. Build your ta'alluq with Allah. I'm not even a spiritual guy, but this is the truth. Build your ta'alluq with Allah, and you'll build yourself in a way that nobody else can tear you down.
Wow. MashaAllah, wow. Coming into this podcast, I didn't expect all of this. Actually, the topic for this podcast was going to be your experience at RIS, but it is your first time, right?
Yeah, it is my first time.
Is it possible we could probably get you on a reoccurring program, maybe over the phone or
yeah, dude,
sometime?
I'll give you my information. You got me. Dude, with technology, we can stay in touch. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank
Inshallah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Instagram too.
Guys, follow me on Instagram, Talon X3, Talan X3, Snapchat, Twitter, same handle. I got you guys.
There's no spaces, right?
There's no spaces.
Oh, okay.
Universal handle.
Ah.
But yeah, it was an honor to sit with you guys.
It was great having you. We got so much to learn from you. I think a lot of young people can learn from you.
Alhamdulillah, man. I'm glad that there's humility that comes with that, because I see that the experiences that I've had have given me unique perspective, but talking to other people always adds to it, which is why I'm glad that I came here and had this conversation with you guys.
We're deeply honored to have someone that had so much knowledge about this.
Man, I'm just a normal dude, man. I'm just chilling like a villain from Chicago. You already know, bro. I'm just trying to do something good with my limited time on this world.
That should be a really good mindset for a lot of people.
Yeah, man.
Thanks again for coming on the Double Digit Podcast. Inshallah, we'll have you on as a reoccurring guest, maybe another time.
Inshallah, I'll give you my contact info, and you got me, bro.
All right.
I'm here for you.
Thank you so much again.
No problem.
And inshallah, we'll see you next time.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Thank you.
assalam.
Okay, let's